Today, we are talking about loud and quiet voices. Is this annoying to you? I bet it is. I promise that the next section will be done like a normal, well-adapted human being. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Character Voice Building with me, Fernando Macias Jimenez. I am here to help you create and develop well-rounded character voices. We've been talking about the RCSB Rounded Character Speech Blueprint. If you haven't checked that out, here's an overview video of it. And we're now talking about the last element in the instrumentalization category. Yay, you made it. Okay, and that element, the fifth element in instrumentalization, is dynamics. So what is dynamics? Dynamics is the loudness or variation in loudness in speech. Seems pretty straightforward. We all basically know how to do it. But do you know how to do it properly? So for you singers out there, you probably know all about the diaphragm. So let's talk a little bit about that. The diaphragm is a large muscle under the lungs at the bottom of your chest cavity, which is really the thoracic cavity, that contracts and expands to help in breathing. So it's this little dome-shaped muscle that's right, the lungs are right there. And when it expands, when it contracts, it goes like this, kind of flattens out, goes down, and when it expands, it goes up again. So it contracts to get out of the way and let the lungs fill with air when inhaling, and expands to help get the air out. Now, when it contracts like that, it has to go somewhere. It can't just rearrange itself. And that place where it has to expand is the abdomen. So here's an exercise to really understand your diaphragm and how it works. When you breathe, try to feel your belly right there. And as you breathe in, try to feel it expand outwards. Try not to lift your shoulders or your chest. So don't go like this. That causes tension all over here, and it's just not good. You don't get enough air anyway. So you want to have that completely relaxed and have really your belly be the one that, comes out and as you breathe. See, shoulders and chest aren't raising very much, just my diaphragm. Expanding out. Another good way to do it is if you lie down and you put your hands on your tummy and feel it go up and down as you inhale and exhale. Now, singers use this all the time. This is very important for singers. But do voice actors use it, and should they use it? The answer is both yes and no. So something I learned from my voiceover coach, non-character related work, more voiceover for commercials and stuff like that. His name is Bill DeWeese. He's amazing, has a ton of videos online. You should check it out. And if you can, you should definitely try to have a one-on-one session with him. I don't think I've ever learned as much as I did with him, and he's a wonderful man. Now, what he said when I first went to him is like, okay, I'm a singer, so I know how to use the diaphragm and all that. And he told me, don't do that. Ignore that. Don't pay attention to any of that. When you're trying to be conversational and just like, talking to a friend, that kind of thing, which a lot of commercial work is nowadays, very conversational, very kind of guy next door type of thing. You don't want to feel forced or, fake in any way. You really want to try to have it be as conversational as possible. So when you're really engaging that diaphragm and stuff like that, it sounds great. It sounds very resonant and that kind of stuff. That's very good for singing, but it's not good for regular speech. You don't do that all the time. So if the script or, the character voice itself calls for a more conversational tone, then you don't need that. Just talk the way you would, breathe the way you would, and you'll be totally fine. Now, when to use it, when you're being loud or forceful, you definitely want to use your diaphragm. And this support really helps avoid straining all your vocal muscles. And that's something that could really cause damage to it. And it could be very, very damaging to your voice, especially on the long run if you do it very often. So if you're trying to do something very loud or very forceful, definitely try to engage that diaphragm to get that air in so you're not just trying to get everything, all the sound out of just this. That's very detrimental to you. Try to have that air support from your diaphragm.
So, when I'm talking like this, I'm using a lot of my diaphragm. I don't want to damage my vocal instrument, so I use my diaphragm.
So now that we talked about the proper use of breath, let's go back to the actual dynamics of it. And something important to keep in mind is voices that have one dynamic level are either boring or annoying, or both. It's usually best to have variety and contrast within that voice. So instead of saying that a character is just loud or just quiet or just normal, I guess, try to instead do this. First, set a dynamic range for it. So basically, set arbitrary points for how quiet or how loud a character gets. And try to stay within that range. The character only leaves that range in very, very, very special occasions. But let's say this is the quietest you can go, physically, this is the loudest you can go. You can say, okay, my character is somewhere over here, that kind of thing. Now, after you've done that, decide where your character lives within that range. Think about it like a meta range. So if your range that you took is here, you could say, okay, my character lives somewhere over here, tending to be in the louder portions, but, a little bit here, but it can go much quieter to some extent. And again, I say meta range because you already chose that restricted dynamic range, and within that, you're trying to define where it usually lives. It's not one set point where it's like, this is the dynamic level. It's a range within that larger range. And last, try to think of where to properly add contrast points. So if a character lives in a general range, every now and then, going out of that can make things funnier or have a much bigger impact. So this is something that really comes down to you as an actor and trying to interpret a script one way or another to really punch that up and get a little bit more life out of that. So if you have somebody very loud, generally, every now and then going very quiet is a very sharp contrast and can be very funny if done properly.
Example 1. Hello, it's good to see you. Oh, don't mind me. I've just been tending to my garden. I am super into gardening. So as you can tell, I tend to be quite high in that dynamic range. Very loud, and of course that means lots of diaphragm support. Now, when you're asking me what I am planting in my garden, I will say petunias. That sharp contrast between loud and quiet makes it punch a little better. Example 2.
Hi, welcome back to my show. My name is Diana Lang, and today we're making a lovely pie. Yay! So first you take your dough, you put it there, oh, lovely and silky. And then, you get the ingredients. You have some human body parts here. We have some eyeballs, delicious. We have some fingers. What do we have here? Fingernails. Oh, lovely crunch. Because of that calm aesthetic demeanor. Think this is a cute old lady, but the content, the actual script, is the contrast. It makes it ridiculous. Now, having that contrast point of having that excitement makes it very funny. You go up, 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 up. We're talking about something exciting. And then fingernails. Oh, it's so funny. Or you can have something like you have somebody in your house trying to go to your special fridge, and you say,
No!
It makes it so much funnier.
Example 3.
So for my industry example today, I have Josh Gad particularly playing Olaf. He does that very well. He has a very wide dynamic range. He tends to live in the louder portions of that range, but he does have a very, very wide dynamic range. He can go super screaming loud, and he can go very quiet, and he uses it very, very well within that script. These are behind the scenes clips that I found that I think are very effective of what I'm talking about. So here in the first one, you'll see he says, for an extra flower, I'm also a love expert. But he says so very quietly. And that is a contrast point to how he's doing things before, because he's very lively and very open. And then he goes quiet and reads that. So you could read the script like, hi, I'm Olaf and I love warm hugs. And for an extra flower, I'm also a love expert. That works. But having that contrast of saying the flower stuff very quiet makes it seem sneaky, like he's doing it under the table, which makes it funnier.
Hi, I'm Olaf and I like warm hugs. And for an extra flower, I'm also a love expert.
Now, on this next one, you can see him getting very loud, getting closer to that louder end of that spectrum, that range. Now, he does it because he's very, very excited and he's like a child and he can't contain it. And then he goes down again and apologizes. I'm sorry, it got a little rambunctious. And having that super fast, sharp contrast really makes it, again, more humorous.
For the love of all that's good in this world, where are we going? I'm sorry if I got a little rambunctious back there. I'm just excited.
Now, for this last clip, I really enjoy it because you actually see the reactions of the people in the booth, and it's very organic. He's asked, and you're alive? And he just laughs it off, gets a little quiet, and super soft says, am I? That just gets it right in the gut. It's very, very funny.
Hi, I'm Olaf and I like warm hugs. You built me, you remember that?
And you're alive?
Am I?
So that was dynamics. I really hope this helped you understand that difference between just saying like, oh, this is loud, this is quiet, and just understanding that range, that whole palette that you have at your disposal. And well done! You just finished the largest category in the RCSB, which is instrumentalization. So I really hope that all helps you understand your instrument a little better. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope this helps you develop your character voices further. Please like and subscribe and check out What the World podcast. It is an improvised comedy show done completely in character, and it's mainly there just as my personal practice, but anybody can listen to it. Perhaps they'll help in understanding how to apply these concepts to specific characters, and hopefully do them on your own. Thanks again, have a great time, be kind, and I'll see you soon.